what do you enjoy? Well, tonight in the studio with me is Miss Pam Mauldin. She's from Walnut, aren't you?
I am.
And she's very involved in the community and things that goes around her, and especially in the United Daughters of the Confederacy, which I know nothing about, so I just thought maybe some other folks might not. So we're going to find out. We are finding out. Tell us what they do.
Well, we have a chapter here in Tippah County. It is called the General M.P. Lowery United Daughters of the Confederacy, in which I have the honor of currently serving as the chapter president. We are a non-political organization. We have objectives that we strive to meet, which are historical, educational, benevolent, memorial, and patriotic. And everything that we do is keyed toward honoring our military, honoring our ancestors who served for the Confederate States of America, as well as helping the military now. Like I said, it is a non-political organization. We do a lot of things out in the community, working with community projects, which our benevolent committee takes care of, and we just do lots of good things in the community. Some of our current projects that we're working on is we are collecting food for the food bank at the Tippah County Good Samaritan Center. Each of our members has a baby bottle that we collect our change in. At the end of our United Daughters of the Confederacy year, we count our change in our baby bottles, and we give the baby bottles and the money collected to Save a Life here in Tippah County. We donate teddy bears to the Sheriff's Department to give to children in distress. We work with the Veterans Home in Oxford. We give them donations at Christmas time. We are currently working on a project for them where we're going to be donating suspenders and belts for those gentlemen over there, so we're pretty excited about that. We mail cards to them at Christmas time, at Valentine's Day. We try to make sure that every veteran there has a gift and has a card to let them know that they are not forgotten. So we do quite a lot in the community that a lot of people may not realize, that things that the United Daughters of the Confederacy do.
Well, now, is that Confederate veterans or just veterans?
Just veterans.
Just
veterans of any. We honor all veterans. It doesn't matter to us what war they actually served in. And one of the things that we have coming up, our chapter is doing what we call Military Cross Service Bestowal Ceremony. We have Mr. J.T. Street from here in Tippah County. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
I know him.
He's going to be receiving the World War II Cross. And we have 6 recipients this year where we honor them, and we honor and now to get these awards, these men must have a lineal Confederate ancestor that served or was discharged honorably with the Confederate States of America. And that's coming up on Saturday, May 14th. So we're really excited about that. And like I said, it's just something that we can do to honor our ancestors along with the veterans now. So, we're really excited about that. We have a lot of donations right now that are going to the Smithville area. That was donated by the ladies of the United Daughters of the Confederacy. So we reach out into our community and into our state, really on a division level really well. So we do a lot of good things in the community that sometimes people may not know that we actually do, but we work pretty hard in the community.
A couple of things I wanted to ask you about before we get going. Who's M.P. Lowery?
He is, of course, was a general in the Confederate States. He in the war between the states, and he is the founder of Blue Mountain College. Of course, you probably know about that.
I do.
He was a minister but in the time before the war between the states, as well as after the period of war between the states, and actually was pastor at several of the local churches, both here in Tippah County as well as in Alcorn County. So he is our namesake, and I have our what I call our yearbook for our chapter, and of course there's his picture there. So this is just a way of honoring one of our local heroes. And that's our namesake for our chapter.
And he also founded Blue Mountain College.
He did.
After he got through fighting.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He was a going fellow.
He was a
wasn't
busy man.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. That's wonderful. If now this lineal ancestry, I was kind of concerned about that. If a person wanted to join, how would they go? And maybe they've heard back years, ago through the family, and they've been told. How would they go about finding out if they had an ancestor?
Well, we at the United Daughters of the Confederacy are more than glad to help them if they, because a lot of times people will come to me and they'll say, well, I've always been told that my great-great-grandfather served in the Mississippi Infantry. Well, we have tools where we can actually find this Confederate veteran's military record. And so, we're glad to assist people with that. Now, our organization is open to all ladies who have a blood ancestor, who served with the Confederate States of America or provided service, to the Confederate States during the period of the war. So if you think you have an ancestor and you're interested in joining the United Daughters of the Confederacy, please feel free to contact me. I will be glad to help you with finding your research and doing what we call proof. And we do have a rather lengthy application that you have to fill out and actually apply to the United Daughters of the Confederacy. And a lot of times people will get scared when they see the things that are being asked for, because we have to have proof for every date and every name that is listed on every line on our application. And I think that one of the things that makes it that way is the fact that with women, you have so many name changes, so that's why I think that we are so stiff on providing our proof. But once it's proven, it's there forever. So if a lady back in 1930 applied to the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and now her great-granddaughter is here and wants to join the United Daughters of the Confederacy, we can take her great-grandmother's application, use that information, and all we have to prove is from the great-grandmother up. So that's something that's very good. And as time goes by, the harder it is to find these things for proof. So, even if you're not interested in joining our organization, it's a good thing to know where you come from. Know who your ancestors are, where they came from, what they did, what brought them to Mississippi. Because in the I'd say maybe 40 years, 30 to 40 years before the war between the states is when people actually started arriving in Mississippi. So if you have family that has been here for as far back as your great-grandmother can remember, chances are pretty good you do have a Confederate ancestor. So it is something that we are glad to assist you with, and we're not going to leave you out there to dry. If you're interested in our organization, we're more than interested in you. So.
Now, another thing, now I realize this is Confederate lineage.
Right.
But if you're not a Confederate lineage and you want to help,
right,
will you be accepted to come and help? And,
yes, ma'am.
But you can't join.
We have something that's called an associate membership. Our associate membership is open to any lady who has an interest in what we do. They have an interest in this period of time, an interest in the things that we do for the community. So if you are interested in being a member of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, but you just don't have that Confederate ancestor, you can join our chapter as an associate member. You are treated exactly the same as any of the ladies. The only thing that happens with an associate member is they can't vote on anything, involving the chapter, and they can't hold an office. But they can serve on committees. They, can do all the different things that members can do other than those two things. So yes, if you don't have a Confederate ancestor and you are interested in the things we do, we would be more than glad to have you.
Well, I was just thinking, with most groups, everybody wants something done. They want somebody to do it.
Absolutely.
And if you got somebody out there that is willing to help,
that's right.
Look like it'd be a good thing.
It is.
Really, you can't look back and help what your ancestors did or
Absolutely,
didn't do.
absolutely. And a lot of times that's something that we're faced with. You know, we can't control what went on in 1861 to 1865. We've had people that want to join our organization, and when we start looking at their proof or their papers, as we call it, we find, well, their ancestor deserted and never rejoined rejoined his organization.
Yes.
But we can't control that because of the fact that these people, these men at the time had families at home that might have been starving to death, might have been sick.
That's right.
And we can't control why they left and did what they did. But, you know, most of the time it was not because they were afraid and ran. It was because they left for other reasons. And two, another thing that our organization is really big in is making sure that the general public knows what the ladies did back in the period of 1861 to 1865, because when the husbands and the sons and the uncles and the fathers all left home, it left the ladies to take care of the children, the crops, the house. Everything fell up on the ladies to do. So that's why our organization was founded, to never forget, you know, what the ladies did.
Did some of them not follow the camps?
Yes, we actually did have women that actually served in the military, you know, that was actually served alongside their husbands or their brothers. Most of the time they did not know that these were ladies until, you know, later at different times. But yes, we did have female ladies, you know, female women in the
that fought, and then too, I understand that there were ladies that did the laundry and followed behind the troops.
Absolutely, that did their wash and things
can you imagine?
Like that. I couldn't imagine it.
I can't imagine.
Couldn't imagine.
But they were tough, weren't they?
They had to be.
Oh, they were
had
tough.
to be. They had to be. They had to be tough to survive the things that they went through. They had to be tougher than me. I can say that.
Me too. I just can't see me out there.
No.
I just can't see it. Can't see it.
No.
You know, I'll relate to you. Something happened it's in Tippah County. My son-in-law, he was interested in the Confederates, and he had always heard that I believe it was his grandfather fought in the war. Great-grandfather, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, he was going to track down his ancestry, and he was going to do great wonders, and he was going to join the Sons of the Confederacy. And when he tracked it down, he said it was odd. Every time he asked somebody of his relatives, they wouldn't talk about it. Oh. They didn't want to discuss it. You know, it was a taboo subject, and he couldn't understand why. But when he got it tracked down, he was A.J. Smith, who's from the South but fought for the North.
Okay, and we have a lot of that.
And that's a bad thing.
Well, actually,
in his family, it was a bad thing.
And that's probably why they didn't want to discuss that.
They did not.
But now, when I joined the United Daughters of the Confederacy, I joined under a great-great-uncle. And my great-great-grandfather, who was his brother, was a Union soldier. Now, my great-great-grandfather was 5 years younger than my great-great-uncle, the brother. And it was like 1964 when he got old enough to actually join and fight. So by that time, in 1864, in the South, the troops weren't getting paid. They didn't have proper equipment. A lot of them didn't even have shoes.
That's right.
You know, and so it's been a long speculation in my family that we think, well, evidently William joined the Union Army because they were getting paid. They had the good food, they had the clothing, they had the things they needed. So if he was of the mind, if he was going to fight, he was going to fight under the better circumstances. That, like I say, of course, we don't know actually what happened in 1864, but that's just speculation. But that does just go to show you that the tales that you hear about, it was in this war, it was brother against brother, father against son. That was actually true.
That's so sad.
That was actually true. In many instances, it was true. So,
that is so sad.
Yes, it is.
So terribly sad. And that it would carry over through the generations, that they still don't talk about it.
And a lot of them are that way.
Isn't it sad?
A lot of them have never gotten over that, you know, got over what happened to the South, because I think in some ways the South has never risen back to the glory that it had in the period that led up to the war between the states, and probably never will return.
Well, there was so much destroyed. Our courthouse was burned.
Absolutely.
There's so much I didn't realize how much I went to the historic museum, and now if y'all go there, don't just walk through. Make sure Miss Cobley is there.
That's true.
Let her go with you. She is amazing.
It is true.
She's amazing.
It is true. But we don't realize, you know, actually what all these people went through during that day and in that time. And a lot of the families have never gotten over the fact that, you know, the Yankees came in and burned our crops, burned our barns, took our livestock, took our potatoes and apples out of our cellars, left the wife and the, you know, maybe a half a dozen or more children to just fend for yourself.
That's right.
And so, and that's one of the things that people talk about peas in the South. Why Southerners love peas? Well, it was a tale back at the day during the war between the states that the Northerners or the Yankees thought that peas were just a vegetable that we fed to stock. You know, they were cow food and horse food. So when they were taking all the food and the supplies, they left the peas. So the South had to survive on those peas, and it, you know, it's been a long-standing joke, but that is actually true. You know, one of the things that are true.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
I sure did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that something?
Absolutely.
But you know, they just ransacked the place.
They did, and that's why a lot of people have never been able to get over that, because, you know, we had a lady in our chapter who passed away in August of last year that was in her late 90s. And her grandfather was a Confederate veteran, but she could remember him very well. And she would tell us stories that he had passed down to her. Well, if you think about it, if she heard X amount of stories, you have to think the amount of stories that her mother heard.
That's right.
And, you know, her mother got these things firsthand, and I'm sure she passed it on down to her children and her children's children. And they thought, you know, a lot of the family may think, well, the Yankees did this to us, we're going to hate them forever, you know. So, and that's one of the reasons why it's often referred to the War of Northern Aggression, because of the things that were forced upon the Southland during the war between the states.
You know, truly, when you go up north, it's nearly like a different culture than it is in the South.
It is.
You know, I was amazed when I moved to, Tippah County's a different culture. Hey, I was amazed. I moved to Tippah County, and I remember my car stopped, and we were sitting on the side of the road, and my husband was working on it, and everybody that went by would wave.
Oh.
Yes, they did.
And
where I'm come from, they'll wave at you.
Right, and a lot of times people will stop. Hey, do you need help? You need me to take you?
Well, finally somebody did. But I mean, if they couldn't stop and they couldn't, like I don't know anything about fixing a car. What would it do for me to stop? You know.
Right.
But they would still wave.
Right.
They still wave.
And acknowledge you're there anyway.
Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing because other places they do not.
Right.
I mean, this is the friendliest people in the world live in Tippah County.
And the South we're really blessed. It is true. And Tippah County is blessed. I know you mentioned the historical records. We have one of the best historical societies here in Tippah County as far as our records are preserved. You can go to the library and to the courthouse and look at records from before the war between the states. And had it not been for the dedication of people in those days taking those records out and putting them where they could not be destroyed, we wouldn't be as well off as we are. So we are blessed here in Tippah County.
That's right.
In that sense. We really
right.
are.
Did not somebody hide those?
They did.
Got that from Miss Coley.
Yes,
I don't know.
Mr. Robinson, I think that actually lived in the house that the Tippah County Museum is housed in today. Went and got, you know, he knew the Yankees had been defeated and, you know, in little battles, and they had taken off back to Holly Springs, you know, to get away from the heat of Nathan Bedford Forrest raining down on them. And he knew that the time was coming when they're coming back. They're going to come back through here to get even. So he took those records out of the courthouse, took them out to the Dumas area, and actually buried them. and left them there, and sure enough, the Yankees, of course, came back and burned down the town, you know, and destroyed the courthouse. Luckily, those records were preserved because of his courage and what he did. Because if he had been caught by some of the Yankees doing this, he would have been burned at the stake or hung, you know, or something like that.
Probably hung. Yeah.
But we are truly blessed here in Tippah County with the records that we do have.
You know, they're doing a lot of work on that.
They are. I think the Mormon Church is here actually digitalizing all of those things, so that we will be able to go, the genealogists and the researchers for different organizations can go and actually look at these records without having to actually touch the paper.
I imagine that paper's getting pretty brickly.
Getting pretty fragile and
brickly.
things. So this will really help in that aspect too.
And there's a lot more interest in it now than it used to be.
There is, and that's a good thing, because like I said, over the years, it's hard enough now for me to find records and things about my family when they first came to Mississippi in the 1830s. And if I think about my great-great-grandchildren 100 years from now, it's going to be that much harder, you know, to find. So, you know, anything that I can find and leave for future generations is a plus. And we don't like to think of ourselves as being immortal, or, you know, but the day's going to come when I'm not going to be here. And the things that I know are going to be lost if they're not preserved in some way. So, you know, we need to do that, not just for our organization like my organization, but for ourselves, you know, for the things that we know.
Our heritage is lost. Our children don't.
They don't realize it. And that's one of the things that we really strive as far as our educational objective. We want to make sure that the truth is out there, because a lot of times it's not taught in schools. If you ask a child, well, when we at the United Daughters of the Confederacy refer to it as the war between the states. We don't refer to it as the Civil War. But if you ask a child, well, what was the Civil War about? It was about slavery. We had slaves and the North didn't want us to have them. That's what it was fought about. That was only a very, very small aspect of the things that led up to the war between the states. It was one of the things, but it was not the main thing. The South had the money. The South had the power because the South had the cotton. The North had the industry, you know, as far as the steel and the foundries and things like that. But the South was actually the king because of King Cotton in the day. And, you know, the North wanted us to do things their way. We wanted to do things their way. And the things that the South broke off and formed their own government, that is nothing that was illegal in the day. It's nothing that's illegal in the day today. Our Constitution governs us, and we're allowed to do that if that's what the states want to do. So when the South broke off and said, well, we'll form our own government, govern ourselves, you know, apart from you, they weren't doing anything that was illegal. So that's a lot of the things that we strive to make sure people know, is getting the truth out there, knowing that, you know, we are not a hatred organization. We're not somebody that believes slavery is something that was right, because I truly do believe that had there not been a war between the states, I think slavery would have soon come to a peaceful end anyway, because of the South is known as the Bible Belt, and we do truly believe that all men are created equal.
That's right.
And so we want you, everybody, to know that we're not about hate. We're about honoring our ancestors for doing what they thought was right, you know, and fighting for their Southern rights and their Southland in the defense of their homes and their families. And that's what we're all about. I mentioned our memorial objectives. We just, a few weeks ago, dedicated an iron cross at the foot of the grave of a Confederate veteran who was a doctor in the Confederate for the Confederate States of America. We honor all of our Confederate veterans, you know, regardless of what their family believed. If this Confederate veteran was fighting for the South, he was doing it because of a love for his Southland or a love for his country. You know, that, hey, they tell me we need to do this, so he didn't ask questions, he went. you know, and so we are big on memorial, you know, on remembering our Confederate veterans and not letting their honor go by the wayside and just dying out and be forgotten. We have the feel that as long as a name is stated, it's not forgotten. So every year at our memorial service, our chapter has a candle lighting ceremony where we light a candle and say the name of our Confederate ancestor. Because as long as that name is out there, we're not going to forget. So that's a big thing we do. Also, later this summer, in September, we're going to be hosting a tea at the Confederate statue down on the square. This statue was erected in 1911 by the Thomas Spite United Daughters of the Confederacy here in Ripley, which is a chapter that's no longer around. But these ladies raised $15,000 to purchase the Confederate monument. Now, to me, that's a lot of money now. But you just think about 1911, this was before the Titanic was sunk. Yeah. This was before most of us had electricity, you know, and that was a lot of money. These ladies held bake sales, bazaars, barbecues, baked pies, and things like that. So it took a lot of pies and a lot of things to raise that money.
What happened to that monument?
Okay, the monument, of course, is still there. It used to sit in the street, actually in the street, and one of the gay trucks actually hit the statue, knocked it over, and broke it in several places and things. But it was put up for several years in, I believe it was in one of the gay warehouses, actually. And finally it was taken out, and there's a big, huge base that the monument used to sit on that was so broken and so crumbled that it could not be restored. But of course the monument is still there, and the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, along with our organization and the Military Order of Stars and Bars and some of the other organizations, have got the money actually in place or pledged to have our statue restored. So that's something that we're looking forward to. But this coming year, or this coming summer, we're going to be holding a tea, and we're going to rededicate that statue because it was dedicated and given to Tippah County on September 9th, 1911. So this is the 100th anniversary of our Confederate statue. So we are going to be doing that as a memorial to our Confederate veterans in the South, so that, you know, at least the families of these veterans know that they're never forgotten. So that's something that we're looking forward to also. So we stay pretty busy. It may be something that a lot of people don't hear about a lot, but we do a lot in the community.
Well, that just amazes me about that statue. I had heard about that it had been hit.
It actually had. Like I said, it was the gay truck line that had actually hit the statue when it still sat in the street. And we have some of the members in our chapter that can remember when the statue actually stood in the street. Of course, I don't. It was before my time when I came along. But, you know, a lot of people do. And we do have photos of the statue where it stood in the street.
I think I saw one on the internet. I believe there's one on the internet.
I know there's a real good one at the library that has a photo of the statue when it stood in the street. And it's a lot taller than what it is now because, like I said, it had like a 4-foot base that it stood on that was completely destroyed and could not be erected where it is now. So, but that's, you know, we're lucky to have what we have, so we'll take what we got and be glad.
Glad to have it.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're halfway through. Tony, cut us to a commercial. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're glad you stayed with us. I'm in the studio, in case you just tuned in, with Miss Pam Mauldin from the United Daughters of the Confederacy. And you brought some stuff. Let's show our stuff.
This is a copy of the United Daughters of the Confederacy magazine. All of the members in our chapter received this magazine. It's in one of our chapter bylaws that our chapter is 100% recipients of this magazine. It has lots of historical value in it that, you know, it's a very good educational tool in itself. Our library here in Tippah County receives that also as a gift from our chapter. This is my official ribbon, and this will tells you the different honors and the different things that I do. Of course, I'm chapter president, and I serve in that office very proudly. I'm past historian. These are different club pins that I'm a members of. My ancestor bars, that this is a way for me to honor my Confederate ancestors that fought in the war. So this is our official ribbon that we wear to all of our events, our memorial services, at our conventions, anything that is official UDC stuff, you'll see us with these ribbons on. Now, this is one of our certificates that we actually give to our members, and this is for one of our members that is going to be coming into our chapter this coming month. And we're very proud of these certificates. You can see they're a beautiful gold seal on there. It's quite attractive for framing, so we're really proud of that. And I just thought that people might like to see, actually, you know, some of the things that we have. We have 38 members currently in our chapter. We have 4 associate members, like I was telling you earlier. If you do not have a Confederate ancestor, we would love to have you as an associate member. You know, we keep our associate members just as busy as we stay ourselves, so don't think you won't have the opportunity to work, because I promise you I will work you if you come to be an associate member. We have 4 potential new members who we currently have their papers ready, waiting on approval. So we're really excited about the growth of our chapter and the things that we're doing. I already mentioned our objectives, the objectives of our chapter. Our flag is the first national flag, which is this flag that's on my pen here. Our motto is think, love, pray, dare, and live. That's the motto of the Southern woman. It was back in the day, and it is still today. Our emblem, of course, is the cotton bowl with a 5-point star, and it has each of our motto words on that. So we have, as you can see, we have some beautiful pins, beautiful jewelry that we get to wear to honor our Confederate veterans. The United Daughters of the Confederacy was founded in 1894. So it's something that's been around for 117 years. And it was founded by Carolyn Meriwether Goodlett and Anna Davenport Raines in 1894, and was actually took on the name of the United Daughters of the Confederacy in 1895. So we are an organization that's been around for a long time, and we intend to be around for a long time. So that's why we really, really want to recruit young ladies, younger women. Any lady 16 years of age or up, if you are interested in the United Daughters of the Confederacy, please contact me. I'll be more than glad to help you. We will get you some research done, and if you think you have an ancestor, we'll find out for you and you know, we'll walk you through those processes of taking care of those papers and actually do the research for you. All you'll have to do is pretty much sign on the dotted line and pay a little money, and you're good to go.
That's good. That's good. I'll tell you what, it's amazing to me that this organization is nothing like people think it is.
It really isn't.
It's
you
really
know,
not.
It really isn't.
Because when you think about the Civil War, you think, well, they were fighting over black, white,
Absolutely.
and that's really not the case.
It was not. It was not the case. Like I said, slavery was just one of the tiny issues that led up to the war between the states. The ladies in the United Daughters of the Confederacy, we share a common bond, knowing that our ancestors fought so hard for what they believed in. And let's face it, we lost. You know, we lost the war.
I thought about that too.
To the victor go the spoils.
That's right.
And that's why so many of our Confederate veterans are buried in unmarked graves. That's something that we're really big on, is making sure that these Confederate veterans' graves are marked. And the United Daughters of the Confederacy works really hard at that. We can actually order headstones for Confederate veterans that, you know, have no markings of the grave, because we want people to know now and in the future, these were Confederate veterans. Confederate veterans are the same as any United States veteran. You know, they have the same honors, and they're not looked down upon by the military because of the fact that we lost the war. You know, we've been in other wars that we, quote, lost. In Vietnam, we say we lost that war. And so it's something that, you know, even though we lost the war, it's something that we still need to honor for what our ancestors went through. And that's something that we're really, really big in, is doing that, remembering our Confederate veterans, making sure that their graves are marked, give them the respect that they need.
You know,
that they
any
earned.
veteran that fights for his country deserves respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Truly, as you mentioned, the Vietnam veterans did not get the respect that they deserve.
No, they did not.
They went and took a chance on losing their lives.
Absolutely.
Went through terrible stuff that we'll, I hope, never know.
Yes.
To try to protect us.
And
we didn't appreciate it.
A lot of people don't understand why we have troops today in Afghanistan. Why do we have troops in Iraq? It's because we are trying to preserve our way of life. If we let these terrorist organizations rule those countries now, our country is next on the takeover list. So we are not going to just roll over and let those terrorists rule the world.
I think we found that out on
Absolutely.
9/11.
Absolutely.
I think when they did the towers. Oh,
yeah. And that's, things like that are what we're about. And like I said, we're not just here to honor our Confederate veterans. We honor all veterans. Back at Christmas time, my chapter, or our local chapter here, the General MP Lowery chapter, actually gave a thank you lunch to the 155th here in Tippah County, up here at the fairgrounds. We had chicken spaghetti, salad, desserts, drinks, bread, everything that they needed. And we gave these guys a choice. Well, do you want spaghetti? Do you want chicken spaghetti? Do you want barbecue? What do you want? And that's what they told us they wanted. And that was just as a little thank you, because Mr. Jones, or Lieutenant Jones, I believe he's a lieutenant, but the commander here of the 155th here, told us when they came home they never got even a thank you, from the county or anything for serving what they did over there for all of those months, almost a year. And the whole time they were over there, our chapter sent them Christmas lights. You think, well, why a Christmas light? Well, you got to remember that you are away from home, away from your loved ones. You're in a country that doesn't celebrate Christmas. Yeah. So if you can take a string of Christmas lights and make you a little makeshift tree in your bunk, a little 4x4 area where you sleep, it's a touch of home. It's letting you know there is a brighter hope, So anything like that we did. We sent them shoelaces. Any little thing that they might need, they would tell us, they would communicate with us. These are the things that we really need. Shoelaces. People send phone cards and deodorant and baby wipes, but you don't think about shoelaces. No. So anything that they needed, any kind of little personal items like that, they'd let us know, and we would send it to them. Our chapter would, one time we brought 10 pairs of shoelaces each and sent them to the troops. We would send them cards. Dr. Cummings here in Tippah County, he was actually in Afghanistan for a period of time serving. And our chapter sent him things, and he would write us and tell us, I'd like to have some hard candy and some small toys to give out to these children. Yeah. We sent that over there. We try to take care of our military men who are serving, and the women too, because a lot of times the women are forgotten about that are over there serving. So they need personal items too that are not getting sent over there very often. So sometimes we will even target just the ladies that are currently serving in our military. So our organization does some wonderful, wonderful work. Like I said, right now in the back of my car, I have like 4 big laundry baskets, about 3 cases of water, maybe 9 or 10 cases of diapers, bed linen, toiletries, all kinds of things that have been donated by my UDC sisters for the people in Smithville. Most of these items came from the South, in Biloxi, and places like that. But like I said, we share a common bond. There's a love there that you can't explain until you've been a part of it. When one of us hurts, all of us hurt. And we try to alleviate that pain and that suffering wherever we find it. So that's one of the big things that we do.
That at Smithville was just such a shock.
It is. And I'm also a volunteer for the American Red Cross, so I got a first-hand look at a lot of that. And when you're thinking about a town of 900, it's much like the town of Ripley.
It is.
If a tornado a half-mile wide came through and leveled our town, what would we be like?
And it truly leveled it.
It really did.
It
really did. So, the ladies of the United Daughters of the Confederacy reach out and take care of our own also. So that's a very big thing. So, like I said, if you're interested in joining the United Daughters of the Confederacy, contact me. I'll be glad to help you out and hook you up and get you going on these papers and get you signed in, because we need all the help we can get. We really do.
It really sounds like that, it's a hard thing. A lot of folks want it done, they want somebody to do it.
Absolutely.
It sounds like y'all getting out in the field doing it.
We are. We work really hard. Our chapter here, we serve Tippah County, Union County. The Corinth chapter covers all Corn County. We have a Boonville chapter that covers Prentice County. We actually do a lot in Benton County also. We have an essay contest that we do every year where we award Tippah County students with money to do essays that are historical based, something relating to war between the states. So that's a way of getting our name out and keeping
neat.
people educated on our organization. So that's a big thing that we do too. So we're out there.
Do you do that through the school?
We do. We actually do that. My second vice president in our chapter is our education officer, and she and I hand delivered to the schools in Tippah County, Benton County, and Union County. We went to all the high schools and the junior high, this is open for, I think it's grades 6 through 12. It's 6th, 7th, and 8th has one essay subject. Then the 9 through the 12 have a separate essay subject, of course, because of the level of the education. But we hand delivered the information to the English teachers, and we encourage them to ask their students to write this essay. A lot of the teachers will give their students extra credit if they write this essay for our contest. So, that's something that we do to keep our name out there. Yeah, it really is.
And it gets young people started thinking about their history.
It does. It does.
Isn't that great?
And we have a lot of men who come to the SCV meetings, and they get so involved with the SCV because we do have a wonderful SCV camp here in our county. They do a lot of good things also, as far as taking care of the cemeteries, and they work with us a lot to help us honor our veterans.
Now, I went to Sons of the Confederacy meeting one time, and there was a lady there from the Daughters of the Confederacy.
Was it me?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's been a long time, I can't remember.
Okay. Well, I know my husband is the adjutant, and I go to a lot of their meetings also.
Well, I was impressed that someone was there to represent the ladies.
Yeah, and it might have been me because a lot of times the commander will ask me, do you guys have anything going on that you want to share with us? And we always invite our Sons of Confederate Veterans to our memorials. A lot of them will actually send us invitations to things that they're doing, their memorial services and things.
Well, I wondered if y'all work together.
We do.
Or,
we do.
I know years ago, I don't know if they still, I'm sure they still have them, but I know years ago, they had a Civil War reenactment over toward Corinth.
Right.
And I know a lot of people were real excited about that.
Right.
In fact, I did some sewing for it, and those outfits have to be exact.
Absolutely, they have to be historical replicas. And
they were wool.
Yeah, hot.
And wool.
I know and I'm sure it may be the Battle of Farmington that you're referring to.
I don't know, they didn't tell me, just it was a reenactment.
Yeah, and the SCV camp here always goes and sets up flags and, things like that to get their name out and invite people to join them also. And I went there one year with my husband just to watch the reenactment, and I wore my period dress where I had the big hoop skirt on, and I don't know how those ladies survived with those pantalets that went to their ankles and those hoop skirts and those corsets all being so tight. No wonder why they were skinny. I mean, it was so
100 degrees.
I was just miserable, and somebody would say, well, you sure do look nice. I was like, I'm dying. The hats and, the bonnets and all the stuff that, you know, that we have certainly gotten away from over the years.
Well, I know these pants were wool, and I was sitting in an air-conditioned room sewing this, and
Burning up.
oh man, and itching. Oh, how did they stand that itchy stuff in the hot?
Just
and
imagine.
then expect them to fight.
At 110 degrees on a battlefield in South Mississippi somewhere, bullets flying at you and everything, and you're miserable and hot.
On foot.
Right, and hungry most of the time, and just, I can't imagine it. I just can't imagine
what they went through.
I can't imagine how our country survived for that many years, you know, and the Southerners, I think at the time, the Southerners thought, well, we'll whip those Yankees and we'll be home in a few months.
Oh, yeah.
And it turned into years of torture and misery. I don't know how they survived it, I really don't.
Well, and when they got back home, it might not be a home there.
That's right. A lot of times they came home to nothing.
Yeah, it was burned.
To nothing, you know, and they had to start all over again. And that's where you get a lot of the hostilities that some of the people in the South still have toward the Northerners, you know, and something that people are not aware of is in the South, you actually have organizations that they honor their Union veterans, you know, too, because the people that fought for the Union were doing, of course, what they
were told
you know,
to do.
Right, absolutely. So, you know, I don't look down on anybody for honoring their ancestors, whether it was North or South, you know.
If you go into service, you do what you're told.
Absolutely. We have some of the men that we're going to be awarding military medals to who were not eligible to get the Military Cross simply for the fact that they might have served during the Vietnam War, but they were never actually in Vietnam country. But it's like I tell them, hey, you were a military police, you were told to serve in Korea versus Vietnam. You had to go and do what you were told to do. You are a veteran, you have an ancestor, you deserve the honor, you know.
You know, that's something, you can't hardly get a Vietnam vet to talk.
No.
They don't talk about it.
No.
Now, the other wars, they do.
Right.
Not any problem getting an interview, but you know, you search high and low to get somebody that's going to talk about Vietnam.
My husband is a veteran of Vietnam. He was a Green Beret in Vietnam, and he was there during what they called Tet, which was, they say, the worst time to be there. And I know he saw and went through a lot, but horrible. He will not discuss it with me. You know, the things that he did and you know, the things that he actually had to go through to survive. Now, he has a good friend who lives in Florida that come through the area and spend the night, you know, once or twice a year. They'll go out to the barn and maybe discuss it amongst themselves, but as far as to discuss it around anybody else, it doesn't happen. You know, it's just doesn't happen. They don't bring it up, you know.
No, they don't.
And we hear the horror stories of our Vietnam veterans coming home and being spit on and being called killers and things like that. And that's what they went through, and no veteran should have to suffer that. No veteran should have to suffer that.
I have a close friend that I called, and I said, oh, I need a Vietnam vet, and I knew he was. He said, oh, Daryl, I'll do anything for you, but don't ask me to talk about Vietnam.
Right.
I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Well, Mr. J.T. Street, who is from here in Tippah County, is so looking forward to receiving his medal because of his World War II service. And he was recently a speaker at one of our chapter meetings. But when I went out and talked to Mr. Street about receiving this medal, he was showing me his different medals that he brought back with him from his service. And he would actually tear up and break down when he talked about landing on Omaha Beach on D-Day. And he would just apologize. I'm sorry, Pam, for breaking down and getting emotional. I understand. You know, I understand that. I know when you think about, he was on a ship-to-shore carrier with 34 men. He was the only one of those 34 that survived. What did he see from those other ones? Not not just his group, but from, you know, everybody else. He talks about the blood in the ocean was actually red from the blood of his comrades, and he would break down and cry. Who wouldn't? You know, who wouldn't break down and cry? So I can understand that. And he told me that only recently he has been able to discuss it. And he said, I realized, you know, I'm 89 years old now, and I'm not going to be around long, and I want people to know what we went through. And that's why he's just recently opened up to talk about things And I can understand why the Vietnam veterans
Oh, it's
don't.
just, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. And my dad was in Korea.
Mm.
I don't have a clue what he did
Yeah.
or what happened to him. I don't have a clue.
Right.
He didn't talk about it.
Right.
But I know that after he was in service, he was never the same again.
Yeah, and
Never.
I've had people tell me that about my husband. You know, they say he came home a completely different man than he was
They
when he
do.
left.
And now these guys go in on fairly good circumstances.
Absolutely.
Look at these Civil War guys.
What they went, yeah.
I bet they was never the same.
Yeah,
If they
oh,
came
yeah.
back and still had all their limbs, they were never the same.
Oh no, they were damaged, I'm sure.
Oh,
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
And then to come back and feel defeated.
Absolutely, and
And then
get
you come
back
home and your farm and everything's
there's nothing.
ransacked. And
You know, the towns are gone. The family home is gone. You know, your money is worthless.
That's
you know,
right. You know, I hadn't thought of that.
It's
That's
true.
right.
Yeah, you know, you may have had $400 in Confederate cash buried when you went to the war.
Oh, what good is it?
When you came home, you had nothing.
That's
you know,
right.
so your money, if you had money hidden away, it's worthless.
That's
you know,
right.
of course, now I'd like to have $400 of Confederate cash. It'd
Oh,
be
yeah.
worth a lot more than $400.
Yeah.
But you know,
But at that time, it was no
it
good.
was nothing.
And,
Yeah.
and two, their family might have been killed. You don't know.
Absolutely,
Children,
absolutely.
they're,
You know,
they have, I mean, they've been gone for all them years.
your
They don't know.
wives were raped, you know, and who knows, you know, who
Yeah.
knows what,
Terrible,
you know,
terrible.
what our families went through. So that's a lot of times why the husbands would walk away from their military service and desert. But another thing that you need to remember, if you're doing research, if you find where your ancestor deserted, don't give up. Look further, because he may have come home to get the crop out and rejoined his unit or joined another unit. Even he may have been captured and was released on exchange and joined even another state. You know, if they were released in Gettysburg, they may have joined up with the 1st Mississippi unit that they came across, even if it wasn't their old unit, you know. So, and if you see on your records that they were deserted, keep digging, because if the adjutant for the camp didn't know that they were taken captured, all he knew was they weren't there. They were listed as deserted, you know, when they did their records. So he might have been held prisoner of war for months and months and months, and he was listed all those times as being deserted. Well, if you keep digging, you'll find that he was released on the 9th of May at Delaware prison, you know. So don't give up. Don't
You
just
know,
give
I'm
up.
surprised there are records.
And a lot of the Southern records are incomplete, because as time went on, you had to think about toting these big steel cabinets around. The adjutant would get tired of that. A lot of times, if the Northerners sieged the records, they would burn them, you know, for their purposes. So a lot of times, military records are incomplete, and if that's the case, all we can do is go by the last known date of service that we have. So a lot of times we have to do that with applications, you know, to prove military history. So, you know, just because you don't know what happened doesn't mean we won't take you. So, you know, but we'll be glad to assist any of you ladies that are interested. Please contact us. We'd love to have you.
You know, I'm surprised that people can keep up with this stuff so well. Like I was thinking at the house, when you're trying to trace that lineage, I cannot remember my grandmother's maiden name.
Well, a lot of
It left me.
times, if you will look on old census records, they may have it listed. Look for old cemetery records. Like if you know your grandfather's name, look at obituary records. And most of the time they will have children listed, or, you know, brothers, and you'll say, hey, that's my grandmother's daddy. You know, I recognize that name. So there are ways of finding out things that are out there. We just have to dig a little bit for it sometimes. So that's just the way it goes.
You know, this is becoming the day and age of genealogy.
Absolutely.
People are looking up where they came from. They really are. And used to it was a little thing they did at school.
Right.
Family tree, they go back to their grandparents. But now, people, you know, adults are very interested in who their ancestors
Where they came
were.
from. Because I think it's not taught at school anymore. You know, it's not, it's something that they don't discuss, which I don't know if it's because of the time, but or what.
I don't know.
But in the age of technology that we live in, you can find a lot of this stuff online. But there's going to come a time when online is only going to go back so far. You're going to actually have to get in there with those books and those old records and do some diggings. Look, I've gone to the Sentinel office here in Tippah County and asked them, can I see your old editions? And they'll pull them out, let you look through it, and actually help you, you know, to find what you need to find. So, you know, it's not a dead-end street for us. We do have the resources out there to do the genealogy work. So.
And now, if you're interested in community service, if you're interested in doing something, then you need to contact Pam.
That's right. My cell phone number is 223-9352. I hope it's okay that I gave that out.
It is. Tell it again.
223-9352. Pam Mauldin. I am the president of the General M.P. Lowery chapter here in Tippah County. We would love to have you. We will assist you in this research, get this application filled out for you, and get you well on your way to joining us. We'd love to have you.
And if you're interested in doing something that counts for people that hurt, it's not about anything we thought it was. It was surprising to me that the war was over. All those years I thought that.
Yeah.
And it was over money.
Mostly,
money.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That was the driving force behind it. Well, and I guess it's pretty much everything now is money rules the world, you know, it hasn't changed in the last 150 years. It's probably not going to change in the next 150.
Probably not.
So.
But if you're interested in getting involved in an organization that does something for the community, contact Pam.
Please.
And give her a call and she'll get you on your way.
Well,